Today, we're diving into a really fascinating philosophy from a text called 800 Concepts for Humanity in the New Era. We're going to focus on this powerful idea it presents, a single, universal force it calls the greatest creator, and the natural law that just flows from it. So let's unpack what that really means. So let's start with maybe the biggest question there is, right? Where does all this, the universe, life, even our own consciousness, where does it actually come from? The text we're digging into today offers a very direct and maybe even surprising answer. According to this philosophy, the answer is incredibly simple. The text just states it flat out. All things, from the way galaxies spin to the spark of our own spirit, it all traces back to one single source, the greatest creator. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this whole worldview, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we're going to define what this creator actually is. Then we'll look at what the text calls the universe's operating system. After that, we'll see how you're supposed to live by its rules. And finally, we'll get to the ultimate promise of walking this path. All right, let's get right to the core concept. Now, the text isn't describing some person in the sky. It's talking about something way more fundamental. So who, or maybe what, is the greatest creator? This is where the definition gets really specific. You see, the creator is described as singular and formless, but also neutral and just. It's not a personality. It's more like a fundamental principle that's defined by these 8 core attributes. Being one of a kind, without physical form, neutral, just, good, all-powerful, and wise. And building on that definition, the text gives it several key roles. You could almost think of them as job titles. It's the supreme ruler, sure, but it's also the core of all energy, the cradle of life, and the very origin of wisdom itself. It's the prime mover, that initial force that kicked everything off and keeps it all going. And this brings us to a really, really important distinction. The text is super clear about separating the greatest creator, the one singular source, from gods with a lowercase g. So in this worldview, figures like Jesus are seen as divine beings or gods, but they are not the one and only ultimate creator. So how does this creator communicate? Well, not with words. The text argues that the universe itself is the message. You know, the laws of physics, the changing seasons, the cycle of life and death, all of it. That's the language of the creator. To understand, you have to learn how to read the world that's all around you. Okay, so if the greatest creator is the source, then what are the rules of the game? This brings us to what you could call the universal operating system, or what the text calls the way of the creator. So this way of the creator is essentially its consciousness. It's an impartial, universal law of nature that governs absolutely everything. You know, think of it less like a set of moral rules and more like a cosmic law of physics that applies to everything, from planets to people. It's just the way the universe works. And this slide lays out the core mechanic of that system perfectly, using that old farming analogy. You reap what you sow. It's simple. If you act with goodness and honesty, you create harmony. But if you act with selfishness and greed, you're going to end up with chaos. The law doesn't care who you are. It just delivers the natural consequences of your actions.
Now this leads to another huge idea. There's no big judgment day at the end of time. Nope. Instead, judgment is constant and automatic. It isn't some being deciding your fate, it's the way itself, that natural law of cause and effect, delivering the results in real time, every single moment of every day.
Okay, so if this is the system, how do you live in harmony with it? Let's get into the practical, day-to-day advice for actually navigating this way of the creator. And the ethical teachings here are, well, they're direct, and they are incredibly challenging. This quote is a perfect example. The path requires us to go against our most basic instincts, right? To choose love and forgiveness even when we're faced with hostility. And this is definitely not presented as the easy option. The text uses this powerful metaphor of 2 gates. The path to destruction is wide, it's easy, and it's crowded with people. But the path to life, that's through a narrow gate. The road is hard, and not many people find it. It takes real, conscious effort to go against the flow. To try and simplify this path, the philosophy boils it all down to 2 core commandments. First, love the greatest creator, the source of everything, with every fiber of your being. And second, and this one is just as important, love your neighbor as yourself. These 2 ideas are the bedrock for everything else. This principle just completely flips our normal understanding of power and success on its head. True greatness, according to this text, is found in serving other people. To be a leader, you have to first be a servant.
It's all about humility and contribution, not personal gain and status.
So why? Why walk such a difficult path? What's the ultimate payoff here? Well, our final section gets into the promise that's made to those who align themselves with the way of the Creator. The benefits described are, honestly, profound. The text promises that by following this way, a person can actually escape suffering, connect directly to the source of the universe, and find joy in any circumstance. It even talks about transcending the normal limits of time and space to achieve your deepest dreams. And this isn't about just toughing it out for some reward way down the line. The text says the Creator's original intention for all life was simply these four things: joy, happiness, freedom, and bliss. Following the way is just the method for getting back to that intended state of being. And the stakes here are presented as incredibly high. The source basically argues that all of humanity's suffering comes from misunderstanding this one fundamental principle. It frames the way of the Creator not just as a good idea, but as the only path for humanity to find its way out of misery. Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. The text itself says, everything is a game. Now, if that's true, and the way of the Creator represents the rules of that game, then is there really a single natural way to win, a path of harmony and consequence that's been built right into the fabric of the universe from the very beginning?